begin today the Gemara on Daf Ayin, Amud Aleph, right at the beginning of the Yamud. The Gemara here is going to bring a inyan, which is sort of a different topic, but it's related to what the Gemara spoke about before. Before, the Gemara here brought the halacha that Rabbi Yochanan said, when someone steals something, and the original owner was never meyayish, he never gave up on it, so the owner cannot be makdish it because it's not in his possession, it's not in his rishus, and the gazlan cannot be makdish it because it's not it's not his. So in connection to this, the Gemara brings another halacha. Amri Nardoi said, Loi kasvinon orkese. You do not write an orkese. Now, orkese in the Gemara is usually called a shtar harsha. What's a shtar harsha? If you want to send someone as your agent, as your shliach, to go and pick up money from someone, or Rashi actually learns that you have a deposit that someone is safeguarding for you, and you wanted to go and collect it and bring it for you, so you're not going to be able to send someone to be a shliach to get it for you, because this person is going to turn to the shliach and say to him, who are you? I don't have to give it to you. Lav bal dvarim didiyat. And if there's an argument whether he owes it or not, or whether he has to give it back or not, and they have to go to Adin Teira, so then he won't be able to take it from him. He won't be able to go to Adin Teira. So therefore, you have to write a shtar harsha, where you appoint him as your shliach and you give him over the rights of the ownership of this object that he's picking up. That's the concept of a harsha. So here, Nerdoi said, you cannot send a shliach and give him over the rights to have this metaltalin, to be able to pick it up for you, because it's not in your possession to do that. That's based on what Rabbi Yochanan said. The Gemara now explains this. Ravashi la meimar. So Ravashi says to meimar, my time. What was the reason why in Nardoi said that you can't write the shtar harsha for a shliach to pick up this item? So he says, Amalei mishum de Rabbi Yochanan. It's based on the statement that Rabbi Yochanan said. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan, as we learned before, Rabbi Yochanan said, if a person steals, and the original owner never gave up on it, so both the owner and the gazlan cannot be makdish this chayfetz. The ganev, because it's not his, and and the owner also can't, because now it's out of his possession. The gazlan is possessing it, so he can't be makdish it either. So over here as well, this chayfetz, this object you have, is in someone else's possession. You don't have any possession over it, and you're sending someone else, and you want to give someone over ownership of that chayfetz. You're writing into this shtar harsha, as we'll see soon in the Gemara, you write in that you're giving him over the ownership of that chayfetz, that he should be able to pick it up for you, and if necessary, to go to a din Torah with that individual, but you don't have any possession over it. It's in someone else's possession now. How could you give him over possession to be able to pick it up for you? Nemesis, that most Rishonim here learn that what this Gemara is talking about is the same like the case that Rabbi Yochanan was speaking about. Rabbi Yochanan spoke about a case of a gzela, where the one that is holding on to it stole it from you, and he's not allowing you to take it back. In such a case, Rabbi Yochanan said, you have no possession over it. But if it was a case where you're sending a shliach to pick up a pekadon, which a shema asked for you, the klal always is by a pekadon that even while it's in the possession of the shema, it's as if it's in your possession. He's holding it for you, and therefore you do have possession over it, and you could be makdish it, you could write a shtar harsha for someone to go and pick it up. But Rashi here, it's pretty clearly mashma and Rashi that it is talking about a pekadon. And the Achreinim explained that according to Rashi, we're talking about a situation of a pekadon where this shomer that's safeguarding it for you is claiming that he doesn't have to give it back to you for whatever reason. So therefore, if there's an argument here between the owner and this, Rashi calls him this neman, this person that you trusted to safeguard it for you, so because there's now an argument, so now you lose possession over it. Similar to a gazlan that's possessing it and not allowing you to take it back. So in such a case, you can't write a shtar harsha to give over possession of this, ownership of this, to anyone else that's going to go pick it up for you. And Rashi says the relevance of this would be that what if you send this person and he goes and picks it up for you, and then it gets lost along the way? So then you can go back to the shomer, or Rashi calls him the neman, that person that you trusted, and you can say to him, why did you give it to this person? And he lost it along the way. You shouldn't have given it to him. He's not the owner. And if it gets lost along the way, he's going to be responsible to reimburse you for this.
But if you made him an harsha,
but the harsha didn't take effect. The harsha didn't take effect, so therefore this shliach doesn't have the when the neman, the shomer is giving it over to the shliach, it's still his responsibility. Okay, this is one version of what Nerdai said. The Gemara brings another version. Iked Amri, there are others that said, Amri Nardoi, that Nardoi said, Loik Kersvinon Orkise a metaltali, you can't write this Shtar Harsha regarding metaltalin de kafre, only in a case where this person that's holding on to this object that you're trying to pick up is denying it. He's denying the story about this object. In such a case, you can't write a Shtar Harsha. And the Gemara explains why. Time the kafre. The only reason is because he's kaifer. He says that he denies the whole thing. He doesn't have it. So then the merzi keshikra. So then the Eidim that are going to sign on this Shtar Harsha, it looks like that they're signing on something that's a lie. They're signing a shtar that this and this chayfetz belongs to this or this individual. And meanwhile, that person that's holding on to it denies the whole thing. He says it's mine, it doesn't belong to him. So when the Eidim sign on it, how could the Eidim sign on something which they don't even know is true? They don't even know if it actually belongs to this person that's giving it over now to this shliach and go and collect it. So in such a case, it's mechzi keshikra when the Eidim sign on it, even though it's being done for this purpose, to give them the right to go to Adin Teira, to be able to be done with him. But because that person is denying it, it looks like they're signing on sheker, so therefore in such a case, you can't write a shtar hasha. Aval loy kafre. If the person that's holding on to this chayfetz is not denying it, then kasvinon, then you could write this shtar hasha. Okay, so the Rishonim over here speak about this, Barichas Gedela, there are many different shatim to explain why the second version here of Nerdoi holds that what Rabbi Yechanan before said does not apply here. Even though it's out of your possession, and so seemingly in such a case you can't give over the ownership through a shtar hasha to anybody else, but the Rishonim explain different they found out that it doesn't apply over here. One simple pshat over here is that this is a takanas chachamim, even though really you should not have the right to be able to do this, as Rabbi Yechanan said, and he learned it from a pasuk, that you don't minatayra, you don't have this right, but it's a takanas chachamim that you should be able to go ahead and collect it. There are other pshatim also about this. Okay, so Gemara weiter. Now regarding this, once we brought up this shtar harsha that you go out and collect, so the Gemara brings there another halacha that Nardoi said about this. V'amiru Nardoi said as well, Urkise, this shtar harsha that you write for the shliach to go and pick it up, the loik sivbe, that you didn't write into it, spell out into it as follows: Zil, doin, go, and you can go to even to a dinteira to go and collect this object from this person for me. Vizachi, and you, the shliach, will be zayich in it. You acquire it for yourself. And va'apik lanafsheich, you're taking it for yourself. That's what you have to write in the shtar hashah to give him the ability to collect it and go to a din taira with this person that he's collecting it from. So if you don't write this, les b'mashasha. So then the shtar that you wrote will have no tangibility. It's meaningless. Because again, the whole point of the shtar harsha is to give this person the rights to be able to go to collect it and to go on to the nitaira with this person. You shouldn't be able to say to him, who are you? Lav bal dvarim didiyat. So you have to write in clearly that you're going and you're collecting it and you're taking it for yourself. My time, the Gemara expels it up. Because otherwise, person you're picking it up from will say to you, hey, that person, the other person will say, Lav bal dvarim didiyat. You're not anyone that I know. You have no ownership for this, so I'm not giving it to you. I'm not going to dintayr with you. Abai says about this, if you write into the shtar harshal, lemechze, l'shlish, l'revia, sorry, that you're giving him the rights and the ownership of half of what he's picking up, or a third, or a quarter. So now he has some ownership, some partnership over here in this chayfetz that he's picking up. Migud mishtoi dina palge, because you can go now to Adin Taira with this person on half of it, because half of it you have a shtar that shows that it now belongs to you. You're able to go to Adin Taira and pick up the whole thing, because once part of it, you have the rights to call him for Adin Taira, so you can call him for Adin Taira for the whole thing. Now said another halacha here regarding this shliach that has this shtar harsha and is going to pick it up for himself, or he's really sent as a shliach to pick it up for the owner that sent him. But if the shliach goes and grabs this money, he goes and picks it up, and then he keeps it for himself. He says, look, I have a shtar harsha where the owner wrote me that I'm picking it up and I can keep it for myself. So he actually goes and grabs it and keeps it for himself. Even though the whole point of it here was just he wrote him this, so he should be able to go and pick it up for himself. The point here wasn't that he should keep it for himself. The point then was that he should give it back to the owner. But if he decides to go and grab it for himself, we can't take it away from him, because this shtar harsha is not a joke, it's a real thing. It's a shtar harsha that's giving him the right to pick it up and saying that you are the owner. The point was that then you should give it back to the original owner. But if he takes it for himself, he can keep it.
Isn't the fact that it's a Rasha means that you don't write inside that I'm making you a shlich to give it to me when while you have it, it's yours.
No, so Ramema says.
Depends what it says in the.
So we saw before what it says, that he's saying Zachil nafshe. You can be zeicha for yourself. So if you can be zeicha for yourself, you can be taifasid. This is the second shot in Rashi. Rabbi Rashi says this is the ikr shot in the Gemara. Rav Ashi argues with this. Rav Ashi says, Kivin de kosvile. Since another thing that's written into this shtar harsha is kol de misani mendina kabila salai. Any expenses, that's one pshat there, any expenses that will be in this din Torah that you will have to go to to pick up this chayfetz from this person. It'll be a din Torah and there'll be expenses. Any expenses that will be here, the owner says, I accept to pay upon myself. So it's clear from that shliach shavye, that he's appointing him to be a shliach. So yeah, a shtar harsha, the way it works is you're sending him to be a shliach, but because as a shliach he doesn't have the right to go out in Torah with this person, so you're making him a shliach to be zayche in it, but not to be zayche in it permanently. To be zayche in it temporarily, to be zayche in it and then to give it back to the original owner. It's almost like maybe like a matan al manas lahachzer. And that's what enables him to be able to go into this Torah. So if not for the fact, if the original owner did not want to have it back, he wouldn't have wrote into the shtar harsha that I accept upon myself all the expenses of the Torah. Writing that into the shtar harsha makes it clear that he's not giving it to this shliach to keep forever. So really, therefore, in essence, he still is just a shliach to pick it up for the original owner. So he can't grab it for himself. Another version of this is shut v'shavye. When he writes into the shtar that you're going to the Torah and you can be zeicha for yourself, and that he's also writing that I'll take the expenses of the Torah, so he's really making him a partner. So to some degree, he's not just stam a shliach, where the point is like a matana manas la'ach, so be zeicha in it and then give it back to me. No, he's making him a partner in this chayfetz to be able to pick it up for him. So the Gemara says, Lamai nafkim. What's the difference between these two versions, whether he's making him just a shliach or even more so a partner? The mitvas palga. According to the version that he's making him a partner, so then the shliach can grab a portion of it, half of it, for himself and keep it for himself, and the original owner can't take it away from him because he made him a partner. But the Hilchase, the Gemara says the halacha is shliach shavye. The way a shtar harsha works is that you're appointing him as a shliach to pick it up, and you're telling him that you could be zeiche in it for yourself, but the whole purpose of that is that he should be able to go to a din Torah with this person, and then you have to bring it back to the original owner. It's like a matana manas lahachzer. That's one. There's different Teifanim of how Rishonim Achreinim define this. It's a very big discussion here in Rishonim and Achreinim how to define this shtar harsha. One of the Teifanim is that it's like a matan al manas lahachzer basically. So Mishnah, getting back to the halachas, the theme of this perek, when I get to Geneva. Ganav al pishnayim. Person steals and there are two witnesses that are testifying that you stole. And then v'tovach machar al piyam. And then the same two edim are also testifying that you either slaughtered or sold this animal that you stole. Oy, another case, al pishnayim achedim. Two witnesses saw that you stole. And then there are other two witnesses that are testifying that you slaughtered or sold it. Mishalem tashlum arba v'chamisha. Either way, you pay the arba v'chamisha that you pay when you steal and then slaughter or sell the animal. If a person steals and then he sells it on Shabbos, or you stole and then what you stole, you went and sold it to an avodah zarah. So the Mishnah here is going to finish off regarding these cases that you still have to pay the dalet v'hei for the selling. And the chiddush of this Mishnah here is to say, in a situation where a person steals and then sells it or does something which what he does comes along with a chilul Shabbos and he's chayiv miseh, so then the halach is kam le'b'derabim minei. Because he's chayiv miseh, he doesn't have to pay the money knas. But that's if he would have stolen and slaughtered it on Shabbos. When he shechted it on Shabbos, so then he's doing a chilul Shabbos, and the very same act is mechayiv him miseh, so he's not chayiv dal v'hei. But over here he didn't slaughter it on Shabbos. He sold it on Shabbos, which Menat Torah is not a malacha. So because there's no chilul Shabbos involved over here, so he's still chayiv to pay the dal v'hei. Gana v'tovach b'yom kippurim. A person stole this animal and he even shechted it on Yom Kippur. So on Yom Kippur there's no chayiv miseh. There's just a iser of kodesh. So there's no kam le'b'derab minei. Ganav mishalaviv. Or another case, a person steals from his father this animal. V'tovach u'mochar, he slaughtered it or he sold it. V'achakach meisaviv, and only afterwards his father passes away. So now he has a portion in the inheritance of this animal together with his other brothers. But at the time when he stole it, and also at the time when he slaughtered it or sold it, it still wasn't his yet. So then he was shechting something that's not his, so he is going to have to pay dal v'hei to his brothers now. Gona v'tovach, if a person steals and he shechts it, and after that he goes and he's the meat that he has here now, that he shechted, he goes and he's makdish it. So it's only after he shechted it that he was makdish it. So mishalim tashlumi Bava Kama, while he stole it and he shechted it, it was still all something that was stolen and it wasn't his. So he pays dal v'hei for that. Gana v'tovach l'refuah. A person stole this animal and he shechted it not for the purpose of regular using it to eat, but for the purpose of l'refuah. He wants to take something out of the animal for healing purposes. Or l'klovim, or he wants to feed it for dogs. Or another case, hashaychet v'nimtzes treifa. He shechts this animal and it turns out to be a treifa, you can't eat it. Or hashaychet chulen ba'azara. He takes this animal which is chulen and he shechts it in the azara in the Beis HaMikdash. So in all of these cases, so the first two cases where it was shechted and it's mutter to eat, but it wasn't for the purpose of eating. Or in the second two cases, he cannot eat it because it's either treif or it's chulen ba'azara, which you can't eat. But the Tanna Kama says in all these cases, mishalim tashlumi Bava Kama, you still pay the knas of Bava Kama. Rab Shimon paiter b'shnei elu. Rab Shimon in the last two cases here, when you shecht it and it turns out to be a treifa or it's chulen ba'azara and you can't eat it, in such a case, it doesn't have the name shchita. Rab Shimon, the Gemara is going to bring, learns out that when the Torah says shchita, the tovach has to be a shchita which is roi to eat. In the first two cases, l'refuah, l'klavim, even though your intention was not to eat it, but you could eat it. So over there you're going to be chayav. But in the last two cases, since you can't eat it, there's no payment of dal v'hei. Going back to the first case of the Mishnah, or actually the second case of the Mishnah, it said that you had two Eidim that said that he stole, another two Eidim that said that he either slaughtered it or sold it. It's not the same two Eidim. Says the Gemara, Lema, shall we say, Masnisim the Loike Rabba Kiva, what it said in our Mishnah, that in such a case, we could rely on two different sets of Eidim here. To be Mechayevim Dal Vehei, it's going to come out not like the opinion of Rabba Kiva. Why? The Rabba Kiva, because according to Rabba Kiva, Ha'omar, Rabba Kiva says, Davar, V'loi Chatzi Davar. When the Torah says, Al Pishnai Meidim Yakum Davar, the two Eidim have to say Eidus about a matter to be Mechayev, a person to pay. They have to say Eidus on the entire Davar, not a Chatzi Davar. So over here, two Eidim are saying that he stole. So with the testimony of those two Eidim, you're not Chayev to pay Dal Vehei. Another two Eidim came and said that he shechted it or he sold it. Based on those two Eidim alone, you're also not Chayev to pay Dal Vehei, because just slaughtering the animal, you're not Chayev Dal Vehei. It has to be both. That you stole it and you shechted it. So it's also each one of these eidos are only saying eidos on half of the story that leads to be mechayivim to pay the knas of the al vehei. So Rabbi Kiva in such a case says that we don't combine these two eidos to be mechayiv to pay. And here, where did Rabbi Kiva say this? The Tanya we learned in the Braisa. Omer Rabbi Yosi said, "Kishaholach Abba Chalafta Eitzel Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri Lil Mitayra." When my father, his name was Chalafta, when he went to learn Torah, by Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri, V'amri Law, others say what happened was Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri Eitzel Abba Chalafta, that Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri went to learn Torah by his father Chalafta. Amaloi, he said to him as follows, and here this is talking about the chazakeh of a property. In order for a person to establish a chazakeh, to prove ownership that he has over a property, so the Gemara in Baba Basra says, how is that? You have to occupy the property properly for 3 full years. And after 3 years, then you have a chazakeh. So what happens if he occupied the property for 1 year? B'fnei shnayim, in front of 2 witnesses. And he brings those witnesses that testify for the first year. Shniya, the second year, b'fnei shnayim, in front of another 2 set of witnesses. Shlish is the third year, b'fnei shnayim, in front of a 3rd set of witnesses. So mahu, can I combine now all these testimony to say that he was there for 3 years? Amalai. So Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri said, or Abba Chalafta said, Hareizu chazakeh. Yeah, you could combine the eidos, and you have now eidos that you were there for 3 years. Amalai. So he answered him and said, Fani oimekain. I also agree with you. Elo Rabbi Kiva chaylik b'davar. However, Rabbi Kiva argues you cannot combine these eidos over here that you have a chazakeh. Because Rabbi Kiva said, Davar v'loy chatzi davar. When the Torah says you say eidos, it has to be in a full davar. According to the first set of eidos, you don't have a chazakeh. You were there 1 year. 1 year does not give you proof that this property belongs yours. Each set of Eidim is just saying that you were present, that you were there, occupying the property for 1 year. So therefore, there's no proper Eidus over here. That's Rabbi Akiva. So similar here in our Mishnah, one set of Eidus is saying that you stole, another set of Eidus is saying that you slaughtered or sold it. None of them are saying that you chayiv to pay. Dalat v'hei, you can't combine it. So the Gemara answers and says, no, it's not the same thing. Omer Abaye answers and says, Afilu teime Rabbi Akiva. I can tell you that our Mishnah follows even Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Mi loy moide Rabbi Akiva. Wouldn't Rabbi Akiva agree in the following case? So the Gemara gives an example of a following case that will show us how over here Rabbi Akiva agrees. What's the case? B'shnayim ma'imrim kiddush. If two Eidim come along and say that a man was mekadesh a isha and now she's an eshes ish. Or shnayim ma'imrim baal. And then later on, another two Eidim come and say that this woman had a relation with another man while she's an eshes ish. And based on the testimony of this second group of Eidos that she had a relation with someone else, they want to be mechayev or misa. So now here you could argue also the same thing, that you can't be mechayev or misa just based on the second group of Eidos without the first group of Eidos that's saying that she's an eshes ish. So in this case, even though the Eidim that are saying that she had a relation with someone while she's an eshes ish, their testimony that she's an eshes ish to be mechayev or misa relies also on the testimony of the Eidim that say that she's eshes ish, that the man was mekadesh her. But in this case, nevertheless, Rabbi Akiva will say that it works. Why? Why over here don't we have the issue of davar v'loy chatzi davar? The answer is as follows: Kivin the eidei kiddushin loy tzrichi leeidei bia. The eidim before kiddushin, for them to say that she's an eshes ish, their eidus does not rely on the second group of eidus that follows afterwards that are coming and saying that she had a relation with someone else. Their eidus is complete after they say that she had a kiddushin. She's an eshes ish. So therefore, davar karina bey. Their eidus is complete. So once they say their eidus, that fact is already established and it's removed. And that, right. So then afterwards, when the eidei bia come and say their eidus, the eidei bia is also considered to be a complete separate fact. It's already been established that this woman is an eshes ish. So now we have a new eidus about the fact that she was mizana with someone and therefore she's chayiv misa. So each eidus is considered to be a full dover in itself. So hachanami, the same exact thing applies over here when it comes to our Mishnah. Even though the Eidim that come and say that this person slaughtered this animal, they can't be mechayivim to pay dal v'hei unless we have the Eidim from before that he stole this animal. But on the other hand, even the Eidei geneve the Eidim that say that he stole it, that's an Eidus for itself. He'll be chayiv to pay for it. He'll be chayiv kefil for it, unrelated to what happens afterwards. So therefore, davar karina bey. So we consider the first Eidus to be a fact for itself, and once that fact is established for itself, so now we know that it's a gneva already. Now the second Eidus about the tvicha is also a fact for itself. So therefore, in such a case, Rabbi Akiva would agree. Right, so it's not like the case of chazakah though. By the case of chazakah, 1 year needs the second year, needs the third year. Each one in itself is just a third of the story over here regarding him establishing a chazakah. That's dafka where Rabbi Akiva said that it's considered to be a chatzi davar. Now the Gemara goes back to explain the Rabbanan's opinion. V'Rabbanan hai davar v'loy chatzi davar lemutemai. The fact that the Torah uses this expression that the Eidus has to be a full davar and not a chatzi davar. In what case do the Rabbanan apply that? If the Rabbanan hold that it does not apply by the case Rabbi Akiva spoke about the 3 years of a chazakah, so when do they apply this drasha? Says the Gemara, lemuute would come to exclude a Eidus in the following case. And here, this is an Eidus regarding a girl to determine if she's already a Gedaila. So the Simanim, one of the Simanim of a girl to know that she's a Gedaila, there has to be 2 hairs that you see that say that she's already mature. So the case would be, Echadaimer, if you have one aid that says that, some take out the word Echad over here, Begaba, that he saw a hair in one area, that so just one hair he saw, that would say that she has one hair towards this siman that she's a gedaila, and echad bekreisa, and or echad begabi. Okay, you got it again. Let's read this again. Echad doimer, echad begaba. One Eidah says, I saw one here in one area, and echad doimer, echad bekreisa, and another Eid comes and says he saw one here in another area near the stomach. Two different Eidos in 2 different areas. So that's going to be a chatzi davar. Because each aid is only seeing half of what, you have to have 2 hairs to determine that she's a gedaila, and each one is only seeing 1. But the Gemara says this cannot be the case that Rabbanon darshan to exclude davar v'lechatzi davar. Why? Frek the Gemara, hi chatzi davar v'chatzi eidusu. Over here, it's not just a chatzi davar; it's a half a edus, because you only have one aid for each here that was seen. Ella, says the Gemara, no, the case over here that Chachamim say that you exclude from the drasha davar v'lechatzi davar is different. Lemute shnayim oimrim, if you have two edus that come and say, echad begaba, that they saw one here in one area, and shnayim oimrim, and another two edim that come and say, echad bekreisa, that they saw one here bekreisa in another area. So over here, in this case, so each one is saying that they only saw one here. So hani amri ketanihi. The first two Adam are saying that they saw one here, so they're testifying that she's still a katana. And v'hani amri katanihi. And the other two Adam are coming and saying that she still is a katana. In such a case, that's a davar v'lechatzi davar. However, regarding the case of when you have different groups of Adam that are testifying regarding different years of the chazakeh, there it's not a davar v'lechatzi davar. The Gemara doesn't explain it. There are many pirushim in the Rishonim why over there it's not a davar v'chatzi davar. Why can't you say the same thing over there? That each year you're still testifying that he has no proof yet. You're testifying that he's just there for a year. So Rashi here says something very bekitzer. Rashi says that when it comes to the chazakah, each one is testifying that there's a beginning to this chazakah already. When it comes to the hears, which is the way that Ramban explains this Rashi here, when it comes to the hears, it's normal for a girl, before she becomes mature in a gedayla, that she has even one hair. So therefore, that one hair that you're seeing is nothing. You're testifying that she's still in the condition of a katana. Mashenkin, regarding chazakah, the process of the chazakah really begins already in the first year. There is already a beginning of a chazakah. If what the first group of Adam testify about that first year just continues, and what the person they saw in the property, he remains further in the property and doesn't go out for another 2 years, he's going to have a chazakah. So when you see the first year of the chazakah, you are seeing already the beginning of the process of him establishing his proof that he's the owner of this property. So therefore it's not called a chatzi davar. You're not seeing nothing. You're seeing already the beginning, and that if you allow it continue, it will be the full davar. So that in that case, Chachamim are not memayit the davar v'lechatzi davar. That's the pshat according to Rashi. There are other pirushim with the Rishonim as well.
Still not the whole one.
And the Chanami, it's still not the whole one, but it's the beginning of the process that if you just allow it to continue as is, it will develop into the full davar. So that kind of edus, you could be mitzaref different groups for the different years. Okay, going back to what it said in the Mishnah, Ganav v'macha b'Shabbos v'chulu. So the Mishnah says if a person steals an animal and then he sells it on Shabbos, so he's still going to be chayiv to pay dal v'hei because there is no chil Shabbos involved there. So there's no kamli b'derab minei. The Gemara but Vatanya and Abraisa we learned potter. If you steal and then you sell it on Shabbos, you are going to be potter from paying the dal v'hei. So why are you potter? So first of all, it's a contradiction, but what's the meaning of this brisa? Why should you be potter? Rami Bava Kama, so Rami Bava Kama explains, Kitanya when that brisa was saying this, so the person that sold this animal, he sold it with a chil Shabbos. So Kitanya the potter. When it says in there that brisa that he's potter, the reason is, Ba'aymer loy akoitz te'ena miteinasi. The buyer says to this ganav, the seller of the animal, pick a fig from the tree as a payment for this animal that you're selling me. And the moment that he goes and picks that fig from the tree, that's when the sale takes effect. That's the payment for the sale. So therefore it comes out that this sale happened with a chil Shabbos of kaitzer, of the malach of kaitzer, of picking the fig from the tree. So therefore, it's the very same act that brings the sale that is Machayev Dal Vehei, which is also a Chol Shabbos. That's the case where the Braisa said you would be potter. But the Gemara asks on this answer, Amri, they said about this answer, but not in such a case, you can't say over here, come live with the Rabbi. Why not? Because v'kivin, v'chitavale, or v'chitavale kamon bedina. If this buyer would now come to a dinteire to try to collect this animal, to try to receive this animal from the seller. Or let's say he wants to have his fig back, he wants to retract from the sale, he wants to get his fig back. If you would want to go to a dinteira about this sale here, we would not go and tell this seller that go and pay the buyer, give him the animal that you sold him, or give him back the fig that he wants back. We can't be mechayev this seller to go and pay this money. Why? Because the mechayev benafshihu. Because with that very act that he did by picking the fig, he's chayev misa. And if he's chayev misa, so then he doesn't have to pay anything based on that very act that he did. So if so, if so, the whole sale didn't take effect b'chlal. So you can't say that this is the case of the Mishnah, that there was a sale here, and therefore there would be a case of payment of Dalad V'hei. Elamai, because of Kamle B'derab Minei, the Brais is saying regarding this case that you would be potter. But no, over here, B'dinei Adam, if you come to a Bezdin, this sale cannot take effect. Because it comes out that the payment, which is with this fig, is not something that in a dintayre, the Bezdin would be mechayev him to give back the fig or to give the animal in exchange for the fig. So b'dinei adam, this is not a kind of a payment that you're even obligated to give b'chlal. Okay, so this is a very interesting thing that Achreinim point out over here. Even though at the moment he pulled off the fig, he picked the fig, that was the very payment, and therefore it took effect. Whether in a dintayre he would be chayev to give it or not. But he got that payment. But nevertheless, the Gemara is saying, since if you would go to a dintayre, if there would be an argument about this, you wouldn't be chayiv to give it because now there was a chilul Shabbos here and you're not going to be chayiv, so the kinyan kesef does not take effect. It's an interesting thing you see from this Gemara. There's also another discussion in Rishonim about this. We're talking here about metaltalin, about an animal. We learned in the Gemara in Kedushin that usually an animal, you're not kind of with a kinyan of kesef. You kind of an animal with a kinyan of meshich, mesire. Over here the Gemara is saying the kinyan of kesef regarding metaltalin. So some Rishonim say that min hatayra, the kinyan of kesef, does work for metaltalin, and that's why the Rami Bava Kama gave this answer. Okay, but the Gemara is asking that the whole sale doesn't take effect. So the Gemara gives another answer. El Omer Rav Papa. The case where the Braisa said that when you sold it on Shabbos, there's a chilul Shabbos, and therefore you're going to be potter from the Dalad V'hei because you chayiv misa. The case is as follows: Ba'omeloi, the buyer says to this ganav that's selling this animal, Zroik gnei v'sechel l'chatzeri, throw this animal into my courtyard. V'tikneli gnei v'sechel, and your animal, what you stole, will be acquired by me. Okay, so what's happening over here is he's standing in Rishus Harabim, and he's throwing it into Rishus Yachid, into his private domain. So as he's throwing it, and it comes into this person's property, there's a kinyan that takes effect, and that's the Isser of the Mechira of this Gneva, that's Chayiv Dalad V'hei, and that's also the Haitzam, Rishus L'Rishus. He's doing a malacha by throwing it from the Rishus Harabim. So therefore, there's a Chiv Misa here. But the Gemara now clarifies this halacha of kamle b'derabim minei is only if the two things, the chiyuv of the payment of the money and the chilul Shabbos, which is the misa, are the exact same second. So the Gemara is going to clarify how could that be that it's the exact same second. Says the Gemara, Keman, according to who is this answer? Rabbi Akiva. It has to follow Rabbi Akiva's opinion. The Omar Rabbi Akiva said, Kluta. As soon as this animal is flying in the ear and it comes into the ear space of this private property of the buyer, Kimi shehun chadamya. It's already similar, we compare it to as if it already landed on the ground. A basic thing about the malacha of Hitzah on Shabbos is there has to be a hanocha, has to have landed somewhere. Rabbi Akiva says, in a Rishus Yachid, as soon as it's absorbed in the Rishus Yachid in the airspace, it's as if it landed. And that's the malacha. And then therefore here, according to Rabbi Akiva, you could say that the acquisition, the sale, takes effect, and the malacha of Shabbos is complete at the same moment, when it comes into the airspace of the property. Because if you're going to say according to the Rabbanon, then the chilul Shabbos and the sale are not the same moment. The halach is as soon as it comes into the ear space of the house, kana, you acquire it. But regarding the chilul Shabbos, the malacha is not complete until it lands on the ground. So it's not exactly the same time. So the Gemara says, no, you could say even according to the Rabbanon that both the chilul Shabbos and the sale take effect at the same time. Why is that? When he said, if the buyer said that I'm not going to be kind of your geneva until it lands on the ground, and therefore the sale takes effect only when it lands, and that's the same time when the chilul Shabbos is. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to the previous pshat that we said, Rami Bava Kama's pshat. Again, what was Rami Bava Kama's pshat? That over here, the chilul Shabbos and the mechira are both happening at the same time, because how did the sale take place? The buyer told the seller, take a fig for yourself, and that's going to be the payment, and therefore when he picked the fig, that's the chilul Shabbos, and that's the sale. So what was the Gemara's question before? But that's a kind of a payment that in a bezdin, b'dinei adam, you can't be mitzi this money, b'chlal, so the sale does not take effect. So the Gemara says here now that Rav is going to explain that even if b'dinei adam you can't be mighty this money, still the sale does take effect. So the Gemara, Rav says, La'olam kerami Bava Kama. We could say the answer that we said before from Rami Bava Kama. Our question was, but the sale can't take effect because b'dinei adam, this is not money that you could be mighty in a bezdin. So he brings you, but it doesn't matter. And he brings an example for this. Esnan asra teire. The halacha of an esnan. The halacha of esnan is a person that gives a gift to a woman that's a zaina in exchange for inappropriate relationship with her. So the Torah says that gift is also to be used for a carbon. Now that Isra of the Torah is Vafila Baal Imai. That's even in a case where the person had a relation, here this forbidden relationship is with his mother. Vitavile Kamon Bedina. Now in such a case, if she wants to come and demand this payment that he promised her in a Bezdin, Mia Medinale Kum Havla, would we say Kum Havla Esnan, that you have to go and give her this gift that you promised to give her? He doesn't have to give it to her. Why not? Because in such a case, when he's having the act, the forbidden act with his mother, it's a chi of misa. So that very same act, which obligates him in exchange to give the gift that he promised to give her, is the very same act that's mechayiv misa. So therefore, in Bidinei Adam, if the mother now wants to come and collect that gift that he promised to give her, he doesn't have to give it to her. So even though in a bezdin, if she now wants to have the payment for this, she cannot demand this. But nevertheless, kivin the chiyo evla. But if he goes ahead and gives it to her, have esnan. It has the halacha of esnan, even though it has this a gift that he gave her for this purpose. So even though b'dinei adam, he wouldn't be chayiv to give it to his mother because it's kamlei b'derab minei. But nevertheless, if he goes ahead and gives it to her in exchange for this aveda, for this act that he did, so then b'dinei shemayim, we say that this is in exchange for this act, and therefore it can't be used for a carbon. So Hachanami, here we apply the same logic as well regarding this kind of sale where there was a chil Shabbos and he picked this fig for the sale. Even though regarding this sale here, regarding the payment of the sale. Come on, if you would come to a bezdin now, and there would be an argument, and he would say, give me back my fig, or give me the animal for the sale. So because over here, there was a chil Shabbos in this very act, in B'dinei Adam, we wouldn't be able to obligate you to go ahead and pay for this. But afilahachi, nevertheless, kivin the kamaknin lebahachi. Since, nevertheless, this is the way you're making the sale through this B'dinei Shemayim. You made the sale over here through the picking of this fig, which is a chil Shabbos. So it will be a mechira. This is considered to be regarding the din of tovach u'mochar for paying dalad vehei for a geneve. Since b'dinei shemayim, this is how the sale happened through this fig. It is considered to be a mechira b'dinei shemayim, and therefore we will apply the din of kamle b'derab minei over here. That's what the Braisa meant when it said potter. So we could still say like the pshat that Rami Bava Kama said before.